Challenge accepted, Grace Randolph. Yes, welcome back everyone to Great Broadway Fan's YouTube channel. I'm Luke, and today I have a very special treat for all of you in honor of our 1 year anniversary here on YouTube. Yes, 1 year ago on December 1st, I launched the Great Broadway Fan YouTube channel, and I wanted to give you all a very special treat, a very special video for this 1 year anniversary. And if you are not familiar with Grace Randolph, who runs Beyond the Trailer here on YouTube, I've included links down in the video description so that you can go check her out, because she really is one of my favorite YouTubers. She's so knowledgeable about movies. She does movie reviews, trailer reactions, shot-by-shot analysis of movie trailers, morning movie news, movie math. She does it all. And recently she posted a video ranking the top 13 Disney animated princess movies. And she asked and encouraged us down below in the comment section of her video to rank our top 13 Disney princess movies. But I decided that I was going to one-up her on that, and I decided, in honor of our 1 year anniversary, I am going to be making a video talking about my top 13 favorite Disney princess movies. Now, I've got copious notes right here, and let me get started by saying one thing very, very clear before we get started. The ranking of this list is not based on the Disney princesses as individual characters, because if that were the case, then this entire list would be ranked totally different. This is based on the movies as a whole. So my criteria that I'm judging these movies on is animation, music, romance, comedy, the villain, side characters, the magic, and the leading lady herself in relation to her film. That's the one thing that Grace didn't include in her video, but I wanted to add it into mine. And so I have decided to rank them all. There are 13 Disney princess movies, and it's going from worst to best. And there are chapter times down in the video description if you want to skip around to hear me talk about a specific movie, but I have not listed which ones got which number position. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, number 13, which is the worst Disney princess movie, I have to go with Grace on this one, and that's Brave. Brave is clearly Pixar's attempt at making a Disney princess movie, and it's not as easy as it looks. Disney has a certain formula when it comes to making their princess movies. And even though it's not written in stone, it's not set in stone, it's not a written law that princess movies have to follow a certain formula, you realize that this formula works when you get consistent good results. And Brave, for one thing, doesn't have any musical numbers in it, so that cuts it right there, losing points. All of the characters, from her three triplet brothers to the king, to the feuding heads of the clans in Scotland, all of them are horrible and unlikable. And Merida is, I think, really poorly written. And I also think that it's sort of a criminal offense almost to cast Emma Thompson in an animated movie and then turn her character into a bear that does not speak. I also think that, similar to Moana, which is featured on this list, Brave does not have an antagonist. And antagonists create tension and conflict for the main character. And you need character motivation in order to have tension, and you need a plot in order to have character motivation. And if you're not familiar with the traditional 3-act structure that Hollywood movies normally have, I've also included a link down in the video description to Lindsay Ellis's video talking about why the 3-act structure is so important in relation to character motivation in movies. And Brave has no antagonist, which means it has no character motivation, which means it is a very weak movie. And Disney movies aren't usually written where the character has an internal struggle. It's more of an external struggle. And Brave is just, it doesn't have a compelling story to keep you engaged throughout the whole course of the movie. It's basically about a girl who doesn't want to be a princess, and then she unintentionally turns her mother into a bear because she wanted to change her fate, and then the whole rest of the movie is about them trying to reverse this so that her whole family doesn't turn into bears. And that's literally the whole movie. Merida barely grows and changes as a character. She learns the error of her ways, but that is not a satisfying character arc. All right. Number 12, Sleeping Beauty. I fully am aware that this movie has some of the most gorgeous animation, hand-painted backdrops for this film, and one of the most deviously seductive villains with Maleficent, but it's not Aurora's story. She's basically a pawn in her own movie. I looked it up. Aurora only has 18 lines of dialogue in this entire film. We spend more time with Flora, Fauna, Merryweather, Maleficent, Philip, and even the two feuding kings than we do with Aurora. I also think that Once Upon a Dream is not a very good Disney princess song because it doesn't last all that long. A lot of those earlier movies before the Disney Renaissance happened, Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty in particular, they didn't have musical numbers that elevated the plot or progressed the plot forward with them. And Once Upon a Dream is literally the only song in the whole movie, and it's so weak. It's really, really weak. And this movie loses so many points in my eyes for calling itself a Disney princess movie when she literally stops talking at the 20 to 25 minute mark, and then for the rest of the movie she's either silent on screen or she's asleep. I'm sorry. Number 11 is Aladdin. I know that sounds horrible to put Aladdin at number 11 on this list, but hear me out. Aladdin is a fantastic movie. It's got imaginative, original animation. It's got beautiful music by Alan Menken, Tim Rice, and Howard Ashman. Beauty and the Beast was the last full body of work that Howard Ashman did before he died, but he did work on Aladdin. It was one of his dream projects. And I think that Robin Williams' Genie is one of the best Disney characters that's ever been written, but it's not a Disney princess movie. Jasmine is the reason why this is not at the bottom of this list is because unlike Merida and Aurora, Jasmine is a well-written character. She actually has her own wants and needs. She is a supporting character in this movie. She's not a pawn or a poorly written protagonist. But the movie's not about Jasmine, it's about Aladdin. And Grace included this on her list, so I had to include it because I wanted to put it at a certain position because it's not a Disney princess movie. And I wanted to make that absolutely clear. I love Aladdin though. Absolutely adore it. Okay, number 10 is Cinderella. Now, let me say one thing very, very clear. Cinderella is not only synonymous with Disney princesses, but princesses in general. I mean, Cinderella is the most famous fairy tale in world history. There's no other fairy tale that has been told more and that has been more beloved throughout the course of world history than Cinderella. And the 1950 animated Disney movie really truly embodies the Cinderella story to a T. Stunning animation. the magic in this movie, the sequence with the fairy godmother is absolutely beautiful. And the songs, they're so charming. The cute mice song where they sing where they're making Cinderella's dress, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, So This Is Love, and A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes. They're such... It's like sitting in a big comfy easy chair listening to these songs in this movie. Which is why I think that it was such a missed opportunity for Kenneth Branagh when he remade Cinderella last year, back in 2015, that it was not a musical. I think that was a horrible missed opportunity on Disney's part. But here are the two big problems I have with Cinderella and why it's at number 10 on this list. Number one, it's a very old-fashioned portrayal of women. And also, it's a very unrealistic portrayal of romance when it comes to women trying to get out of the current situation that they're in. I mean, Cinderella basically has been verbally abused to the point where she has been brainwashed into believing this is the only thing that she knows. And so she cooks and cleans in a house that, even though is rightfully hers, her stepfamily has driven her near to insanity, pretty much. And the fact that the movie's message is basically, oh, just be pretty, and you can get a makeover, and one day a handsome prince will come into your life, dance with you, he'll fall in love with you, and you two will get married. I mean, that is such an unrealistic portrayal that it's almost cringeworthy. And number two, like Sleeping Beauty, we don't spend a lot of time with our leading lady. We spend more time with her than Aurora, but we spend so much time with the mice, Lucifer the cat, the stepsisters, the stepmother, and even the king and his right-hand man. We spend more time with them than we do our leading lady and even the prince. The prince only has 3 lines in the movie. As you can see, I get really bothered with Cinderella. But it's a beautiful film. It's a beautiful looking film. And speaking of a beautiful looking film, number 9 is Moana. And I talked about why I had problems with Moana in my review on my GreatMovieFan channel, and I'll include a link once again down in the video description. But I called the film charming but not compelling. Stunning animation, a likable protagonist, and amazing voiceover work. But like Brave, because the movie does not have a love interest or an antagonist, it's a very small movie with a very weak plot. And once again, with no character motivation, makes for a very weak plot. I think that the music in Moana, with the exception of How Far I'll Go and We Know the Way, pretty much everything else is so forgettable and just lazy in terms of music. And I adore Hamilton. I absolutely love that musical. I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's such an amazing, talented songwriter that watching this movie and listening to these songs, it was such a disappointment. And it's interesting. Everybody involved with this movie I have seen do better work. John Musker and Ron Clements in terms of their direction. I mean, they did The Great Mouse Detective and Hercules, but they also did Aladdin and The Little Mermaid and The Princess and the Frog. Lin-Manuel Miranda, he wrote In the Heights and Hamilton, but now he's written this. And the movie, similar to Hercules, actually enough, has moments of brilliance, but the overall package of Moana is far from perfect, unfortunately. Number 8, Pocahontas. I think that unlike Brave and Moana, this actually has a very intense plot where the stakes are high throughout the whole course of the movie. It's got well-written and dynamic characters, and it has beautiful music. I mean, Savages is such an intense musical number that it keeps you on the edge of your seat. And Just Around the River Bend and Colors of the Wind, 2 of the most gorgeous musical numbers that have ever been written for Disney movies. But the problem with Pocahontas is that it's so historically inaccurate that it's almost laughable. I mean, the movie takes so many liberties with being based on a true story. The only Disney princess movie to date that is based on a true story. I mean, there are other ones that are based on pre-existing fairy tales, and there's other ones that are based on mythology, but Pocahontas is actually based on real-world events. And it's so far away from what the original story is that it's almost unrecognizable. It's basically doing like a whitewashing and doing a huge blanket over all these years of problems with white Europeans and Native Americans and basically glossing it over by having these two drop-dead gorgeous human beings from two conflicting sides in love with each other. And also, I have to say, on a side note, I think that Pocahontas might be the only Disney princess animated movie that will not, and I don't think ever, get a live-action adaptation. They'd have to change so much about the source material that it would almost be a completely different movie. Which is just unfortunate. Because beautiful animation and beautiful music, just a really bad plot and script. Ugh. Okay. Number 7, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Now, even though this movie has a lot of the same problems as Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty in that it's a very old-fashioned interpretation of women and that Snow White is a poorly written female character, I have to put this movie up higher than those two because it's truly such an innovative film. I mean, the animation still holds up after all these years. The plot is so well written that the stakes stay high throughout the whole movie. And while everybody talks about how Maleficent is the greatest Disney villain of all time, I think that the evil queen in Snow White is a better Disney villain. Because I think that she is willing to go to such lengths as to change her physical appearance so that she can murder her stepdaughter so that she can be considered the most beautiful woman in the kingdom. Maleficent went after Sleeping Beauty simply out of spite, and she did turn into a dragon, which is great. But the evil queen in Snow White is so seductive and so sinister and truly wicked and menacing that it's no wonder that she ended up on AFI's top 10 villains in cinematic history. I also think that, like I said, even though Snow White is a bit of a ditz, and the prince literally has no personality or more than 3 lines of dialogue, this is the movie that started it all. This was the film that changed the course of movie history. Before this, animation was basically reduced to being a children's medium and only was done for short films in front of live-action movies. Nobody thought that Disney could ever do this. People said, oh, audience members will walk out of the theater. They'll be bored. Their eyes will start bleeding if they watch a feature-length animated movie. But this film is made so wonderful that it became respected. It made animation respected by all, and it started animation as a whole film genre to begin with. And I have to give credit to Snow White for doing that. Number 6, Tangled. Now, I do love this movie. It's fun, it's charming, it's delightful. It's got good music, it's got a great villain, it's got a well-written love story where the characters actually go from not liking each other to falling in love with each other, and the stakes are high. But overall, Tangled is really, it feels very vanilla. There's nothing really special that makes this movie stand out from the crowd. That's why it's sort of in the middle of this list, because even though it's fun and it's goofy and it's a modern road trip comedy with magic and fairy tales everywhere, it's just not very innovative. It's not forward thinking. There's nothing truly dynamic or special about this movie, which is why I put it at number 6. So what goes above Tangled? Well, number 5, Frozen. I have to give credit to this movie for bringing back the practice of having Broadway talent write for Disney animation. Because Howard Ashman and Alan Menken came on board with the Renaissance for The Little Mermaid, and then Beauty and the Beast, and later Aladdin, and then The Lion King, and all those movies that followed. And then after the Renaissance, it went away. And while The Princess and the Frog was a return to form for animated Disney musicals, Frozen brought Broadway talent and made them front and center in the making of this movie. And even though I have serious problems with the character of Anna, how I feel that there's no real relationship that the movie shows us to warrant her going so far as to get her sister back, and the plot in general just being very sloppily written, there really is something special about this movie in that it goes the extra mile to give us two Disney princesses for a change and a sister relationship in a movie that's never happened in a Disney film before. And I think that Elsa really is such a wonderful character. She's a bit of a blank slate, but she's so relatable, and she's so many things to so many different people. That's why everybody loves Elsa so much. I mean, she is the embodiment of female power and just power in general, and I absolutely adore that about her character. The reason why Frozen is not higher up on this list, honestly, is because of the music. There are songs that are just knockouts. For the First Time in Forever, Let It Go. There are songs that are good, middle of the road, like Love is an Open Door and In Summer. But then there are songs that are just downright terrible in this movie, and that's Frozen Heart and Fixer Upper. I mean, the music is such a mixed bag that the inconsistency is why it's not higher up on this list. And I encourage all of you, once again, link down in the video description, to a video of a cut song from Frozen called Life's Too Short, which I think should have actually made the final cut. And when you watch it, you'll see why. Because I think Life's Too Short was a better song in depicting the relationship between these sisters and why everyone's doing what they're doing. And I don't understand why it was cut. Number 4, Mulan. The forgotten Disney princess. And I really feel bad for Mulan because I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, don't remember this movie. They may remember a couple of the songs, specifically I'll Make a Man Out of You, but the movie as a whole, I mean, oh my gosh, talk about epic. Amazing musical numbers. I think that Reflection is one of the best written songs, not just for a Disney movie, but it's so simple and it relays such a beautiful, poignant message in that you're trying to please others in your life while still remaining true to yourself. And that is so difficult sometimes. And Grace Randolph made an excellent point. Mulan is able to depict the seriousness of war and maintain that serious tone throughout the whole course of the movie while still remaining all ages friendly. I think that Mushu is probably my favorite sidekick in a Disney princess movie, and similar to Beauty and the Beast coming out next year in 2017, I'm really looking forward to this live-action retelling of Mulan that's coming out in November of 2018. All right, we're getting close. Number 3, The Princess and the Frog. I absolutely adore this film. It's so authentic. There have been movies on this list that are not very authentic to the culture or the country that they're trying to depict. I think that Moana is a beautiful Valentine to Polynesian culture, and Pocahontas is a great depiction of Native American culture, but The Princess and the Frog is so authentic to not just the Roaring Twenties, but to New Orleans as a whole. From the way that the music is orchestrated, to the songs and the lyric choices, to the fashion that everybody wears, to the animation. The last 2D animated movie that was ever made. Amazing musical numbers. Absolutely stunning. I absolutely love it, love it, love it. Tiana, such a well-written character. She's dynamic, she's layered, she has her desires and her wants, and she grows and realizes that what she truly wants is not what she needs. And that's what a great character arc should be. And I also have to give props to being the very first Disney animated princess who was African American. Points for that. I also think that Naveen, Louis, Ray, Dr. Facilier, Madame Odie, and Charlotte are all fantastic supporting characters. Dr. Facilier being the villain, but absolutely stunning. My one problem with The Princess and the Frog, and why it's not at the number 2 spot, is because we spend way too much time with these characters as frogs. And I think that if they had done it in a different way, maybe it would have been a lot more well received by audiences and critics. But I love this movie. So, what's the runner-up? What's the number 2 Disney princess movie? The Little Mermaid. Even though, similar to Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty, I have problems with one-dimensional, bland female characters, and I just think that Ariel was way too boy crazy and just way too unrealistic as a character. I have to give major respect to this movie, not just for kickstarting the Disney Renaissance, but for bringing back the movie musical genre. After the 1960s, movie musicals went into the cult fandom. Rocky Horror Picture Show, Grease, Little Shop of Horrors, Cabaret. None of them were huge, either awards contenders or box office huge, except for Grease. But most of those movies were not like mainstream and well received. The 70s and 80s were a dark time for movie musicals, but The Little Mermaid brought it back. There's not a bad song in this whole movie, maybe except for the opening number, Fathoms Below. But Under the Sea, Poor Unfortunate Souls, Les Poissons, Kiss the Girl, and of course, Part of Your World. I mean, before Let It Go, there was Part of Your World. Stunning animation. Ursula is a great Disney villain. I'd put her up there with the Evil Queen and Maleficent. Hilarious side characters. It's just fantastic. But the number 1 Disney princess movie, once again agreeing with Grace Randolph on this one, and you probably guessed it, Beauty and the Beast. Never before has Disney made a movie that is so ambitious and sophisticated in its storytelling that it doesn't feel like a Disney princess movie. It doesn't feel like a kids movie. It doesn't even feel like an animated movie. It has the feel of a live Broadway musical that was turned into an animated movie, even though that's not how it actually happened in real life. Linda Wolverton's screenplay is so layered and complex. The movie on its surface, I mean, you could easily watch Beauty and the Beast and be like, oh, it's just another animated kids movie. Just another Disney princess movie. But I think that Beauty and the Beast is actually deceptively simplistic, which means it's incredibly complex and sophisticated when you peel back all of the layers. All of the characters are so wonderfully well written. They have dynamic character arcs. They all grow and change. We have a realistic romance where, like with Tangled, the Beast and Belle start out not liking each other, and at the end of the movie, they do. Every single song in this movie is perfect. There's not one bad song in the entire score. I mean, everything. I listen to this soundtrack and the cast recording on repeat constantly because Beauty and the Beast is so beautiful when it comes to its music. The animation is just a triumph. I mean, that ballroom sequence with the chandelier is absolutely stunning. And because of that live action feel, I think that was the reason why it was nominated for the first animated movie nominated for Best Picture, because it doesn't feel like an animated movie. You forget that you're watching an animated movie. And I also think that it's going to be incredibly interesting and to see this animated movie that feels like a live action movie to actually get turned into a live action movie, which is coming out next year. I don't think that anything could possibly top the animated original Beauty and the Beast, but maybe this live action remake could definitely plus it in terms of adding more to an already near perfect story. So there you are, everybody, and there you are, Grace Randolph. That is my top 13 Disney princess movies. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Leave in the comments down below what is your list for the top 13 Disney princess movies. Follow me on social media. The links are in the video description. Instagram, Twitter, my other YouTube channel, GreatMovieFan. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, happy anniversary, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. It really means the world to me. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.